This week you'll learn the best rubber band trick and give credit where it's due. Yeah!
This pure magic was forged in the heart of lynda.com.
Welcome to the show that's less Khan Academy and more Con Academy. Scam School, the only show dedicated to social engineering at the bar and on the streets. Hello, beautiful people. I'm your host, Brushwood, and this week we correct a grave injustice. For years, one of the most popular effects among professional magicians has been taught without giving credit to the person who made it famous. So we fix all of that and learn one of the best close-up rubber band effects of all time. Get ready for Crazy Man's Handcuffs and Justice. Boom. All right, this is actually an extraordinarily special episode of Scam School because I get a lot of flack from the fans for saying that every single trick is my favorite. And yes, it's true. They are all my favorites. This one is not just my opinion a good trick. It is objectively one of the greatest magic tricks ever invented. It's one of the most popular. It's one of the ones that every decent professional magician knows. And unfortunately, I was looking at YouTube today, and there's 1,000 tutorials of it, and not one of them credits the guy who made this trick famous. Michael Ammar is one of my all-time heroes, one of the greatest magicians who ever lived. He's the reason that I know the magic that I know today. And back in like the late 70s, early 80s, he popularized the effect that's known now as the Crazy Man's Handcuffs. And I talked to him today, and I was like, I just want to teach it right and make sure that to get the story of why it happened. So I'm going to show it to you. We're gonna learn it, and I'm gonna tell you the insights that Michael Ammar did that made the trick world famous, literally. Okay. So the first time I ever saw it was in a David Copperfield special when I was a kid, and I loved it because you had all of these giant, big illusions with boxes and all this other crap, and instead, the only part of the whole special I remember to this day is when he sat on stage and he took 2 rubber bands. He had people inspect it, but it's like, how do you have a fake, tricky rubber band? You don't. And you set one right behind the other so that they're clearly, you'd say they're not linked, but you can see that one is behind the other. Like there's no way that it can actually come through at all, right?
Right.
And then what was amazing is he just gave one moment when he just sort of went,
oh.
and it penetrates right through each other.
Awesome.
And I remember, and I taped the special because I was a dork, and I went back and I rewound it over and over and over again, and every time it was the same. Here, most tricks you can only get away with doing once. I'm gonna do it again. That is what is so good about this illusion, is that it stands up to repeat scrutiny. Again, people think there's something in the setup. It's definitely one behind the other, and you can see the junction points at the middle. There's no getting at the edge on there, and yet, just right there in front of you, it just penetrates and melts right through. Is that amazing?
That is awesome.
Incredible. Okay, look, we're gonna learn the backstory of why this trick is so famous, how it works, and we're gonna have both of you do it. First, we gotta thank people who make Scam School possible. Beep,
Yes.
boop, 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 boop. Look, man, normally it's a pretty sweet gig. Hang out at a bar, make some people happy, teach some magic, score some free drinks. Then one day it's 33 degrees and raining. You're at an outdoor bar. You're standing there with your hot chocolate that may or may not be all Irished up. It's around this time that I think about how much better our friends have it over at Lynda. That's right, lynda.com. It's the best place for you to learn all the skills that you need to get ahead in life. We're talking about 77,000 videos on everything from Photoshop, 3D modeling, animation, business skills. And the best part is it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. You can better yourself for only $25 a month and learn as much as you want and then say, done. I've learned it all. Thank you, lynda.com. But you won't. In fact, I want you to head on out and take a free sample. That's how confident I am. Head on over to lynda.com/scamschool. Sign up, get yourself 7 days of all-you-can-eat lessons. Become the ultimate Uber man. And then say, thank you, Scam School. Have an Irish coffee because you're cold and miserable. 33 degrees. Boom, boom. So the first thing we're gonna learn on the explanation of this is a move that we want to have become automatic, because the biggest problem is in a moment, you're gonna be doing 3 moves at once, and I want 2 of those moves to be totally natural, okay?
Okay.
So imagine you have the one rubber band in your left hand, your other in your right, and I want you to practice the move of every single time you pull apart, your index and thumbs should always come together. It's like you're pulling taffy. No matter which way you go, they start wide in a cross position, and they always come together. And then they come out, then they come back, right?
Okay.
And it's easy to do when we're playing pretend.
Okay.
A little bit harder when you actually have the rubber bands. So let's go ahead and get set up with the rubber bands. The less twisted yours are when you set it up, the better this effect will look. You want it to be a smooth band all the way around. In this case, we'll set one behind the other. Now you'll notice, if you were to pull apart with your wrists not moving, this would want to fly off of it, as you can see plainly, right? So instead, to keep them on your fingers, you'll notice you'll rotate your wrists so that you're kind of like casting a spell here like this. Every time you do this, you're gonna rotate your wrists, because if you don't, it'll fly right off.
Okay.
Make sense? So you go this way, you go that way. As long as you rotate your wrist, it's always going to stay on there. Which brings me to the secret move. In the secret move, you are not going to rotate your wrist. And as I mentioned, if you were to do the tapping move as you pulled away, it would roll right off, which is exactly what we're gonna rely on.
Okay.
So in this case, we're gonna set it up the exact same way. And this time, with my middle finger, I'm gonna clamp down super hard on the fingernail of the index finger, okay? Then I'm gonna pull towards my face, doing the tapping move. So the index and thumb will come together, but as I do so, I'm pulling back, and because I have this clamped down, look what happens. My index finger, it actually rolls off of it and goes onto the middle finger. Now, if I want to, if I keep everything the same, I can just roll it back and I'm right back where I was to begin with. So again, clamp, roll it off, and then just go back. So you just did it, show me same thing, right back to where you were, perfect. So this time, here's the super secret move. We're gonna show that it doesn't penetrate. We're gonna show that it doesn't penetrate. Now this time we're frozen and our index fingers are free. Here's the secret move. Because the index finger is free and because everything's all pinched together here, I'm gonna sneak in the index finger into the same loop as the thumb. Perfect, perfect, you got it.
Okay.
Now, here's the tricky move. Before the trick even begins, after pulling back, you're all set, three things are gonna happen. Your index and your thumb are gonna pull apart, your middle finger is going to let go, and the whole thing's gonna come back right to where you started. The only difference is when you get it done, you will look like you're in the same position, except the other one's already on the outside. You got it. How natural was that, right?
It feels really good.
Okay, so again, one behind the other. You're gonna rotate your wrists every time to show that it really doesn't penetrate. And then the one time you wanna do the secret move, and again, to me, I pull towards my face, clamp down on that index, let it rotate off. Your index is now free, and then whoop, now you're set. And this brings us to the most important part of the Crazy Man's Handcuff. This is the insight that Michael Ammar had that made the trick totally famous. As the trick was originally created, you would place one behind the other, you'd pull apart, and then say, look, now they're separated. It was instant and it was fast. And in fact, some people would even advise having two different colored rubber bands so that it was even more obvious that they had penetrated each other.
Okay.
But Michael Ammar was watching a Linking Rings presentation by a guy named Richard Ross, where the guy had separated them. They were already separated, but he held it because he knew the audience couldn't tell that they were separated yet. And he waited, and then finally, the rings seemed to melt right through each other. And so Michael Ammar goes up and says, hey, how did you do that melt move? And he's like, well, it was already done. I just waited, and then it looked like they melted. And then it was like brain explosion for Michael Ammar at that moment, because he realized that if you had two similarly colored rubber bands and you did the move in advance, you could talk forever and get ready and then say, all right, now watch, here it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. And it looks like it melts right
where they were together, yeah.
Right? Let's take it from the top, all three of us this time, all right? One behind the other. First, we're gonna do a real taffy move, I guess. We're gonna show that it's not going anywhere. So you do one, and then you do the other, and now this time we're gonna do it. Everyone sneak that in. All right, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Yep. Is it done?
It's done.
Oh, ready? 1, 2, 3, what? Dude, I cannot believe that. That was like less than 10 minutes of practice, and you guys actually had it. Man, congratulations. How freaking awesome is that?
That is awesome.
This is legitimately one of the best. To you, Michael Ammar.
There you go.
Like he's in the sky floating around. Michael, wherever you are.
Michael.
He's Obi-Wan Kenobi floating behind me right now.
Is he alive?
Yes. Okay. I talked to him on the phone. Yes, this is another effect that you're actually gonna have to practice. Guess what? If you wanna look like a badass, sometimes you actually have to learn some stuff. But don't worry about it. These guys got it down in like 10 minutes, and if you just practice while the TV's on or something, you'll have it down in no time. Speaking of which, I want to hear about all your success stories, so post them down in the comments. Let me know how you're working on this. And most of all, we have to give a huge thank you to Michael Ammar, the legend himself. He's the reason this effect became famous, and I'm so thrilled that he gave us permission to teach it right here on Scam School. Do me a favor, head on over to ammarmagic.com. No kidding, Michael Ammar has the very best magic, and he's one of the best teachers in the history of the freaking art. And thank him for letting us share one of his miracles. By the way, if you want to suggest your favorite trick, hit me up at brian@schwood.com, and you and I should be friends on facebook.com/schwood. If you don't like me, then that means you don't like me. And if you don't like me, why should anyone like me? What am I gonna do? By the way, we're gonna boost our ratings next week because we're gonna have a brand new gimmick to bring in new viewers. Next week's episode is going to be in fabulous 1D. Can't you feel like you're in a ray? That's a ray is like a line that goes for geometry. It's geometry. To where there's no way that, that I could do that.
Oh my gosh! You're next, Chris.
The curse of the blind.
I'm gonna get shot in the eye.
And then of course we have two blind people watching now. You missed earlier.
Yeah, me getting shot in the face.
Yeah, Charles almost joined your ranks. Brain explosion.